planning to take Managerial Economics. That's ECP 3703 in one of my sections here at the school. The presumption in taking Managerial Economics is that you have already had a principles level course in microeconomics. It may have been some time ago. But we're going to make the assumption you've had the course and you remember and can intelligently converse about some of these topics I want to show you. Now, if you're in my class on the Learning Management System, Angel, you'll find videos and PowerPoints about these topics to help you review as you begin the Managerial Econ course. But you've got to know the terminology and the concepts. So here's a few examples of the things you need to know. Supply and demand. You need to know the basics about what makes a demand curve shift, what makes a supply curve shift, increase or decrease, and when those curves do shift, what impact does that have on the market price, the equilibrium price, and output. So if you're not comfortable about how those curves shift or why, take a look at some of the basic videos. You also need to be familiar with price floors and price ceilings. What is a price floor? What happens when a price floor is set above equilibrium? The answer is we get a surplus, but you want to be able to visualize that as well as discuss it, because we're going to put numbers to it later. Okay? Another thing you're going to be very familiar with is elasticities. 4 types. We have price elasticity, and while the textbook we use may change, my notation is consistent, and you'll see it in the YouTube videos, etc. Price elasticity, I abbreviate with this symbol E, okay? And it will be either the price elasticity of demand, or it will be the price elasticity of supply. And what I'm asking you to remember or recognize, this is the percentage change in the quantity people buy or demand when there is some percentage change in price. And over here, this is the percentage change in the quantity that suppliers offer for sale when there is some percentage change in the price of the good in the market. So you want to be comfortable with what those are and how those calculations are made. We also use cross-price elasticity or cross-elasticity. And I abbreviate that with the symbol sigma, little Greek letter sigma. Let's say XY. This is showing the relationship between the price of Y and the amount of X that people consume. And so this is the percentage change in the amount of X that the market buys when there is some percentage change in the price of good Y. And so here we may have substitute products, or we may have complementary products, complements. And hopefully you will remember and recognize that when the cross-elasticity is positive, when you have a positive sign out here, those goods are substitutes. And if it's negative, if the sigma is less than 0 or negative, you have complementary products, complements. So I need you to recognize that and be familiar with it when you start reading about it. And then the other elasticity, we're almost out of room, is income elasticity. My symbol is a little Greek, like an N, like eta, okay? This is the percentage change in the amount people buy, quantity demanded, when there is some percentage change in incomes, letter M for income. Sometimes I use Y, depends on where I'm doing it, okay? Income elasticities identify goods as either inferior or normal. Inferior goods have a negative income elasticity. Normal goods have a positive income elasticity. And hopefully that is just a remembrance to you, that you're looking at that going, oh yeah, I know that. Okay? And again, the calculations you've got to be ready to do. This is assumed before you begin the course. A couple of other points. For the most part, we're going to use straight line demand curves. Okay? So I need you to remember that if you have this sort of demand curve, all right, this is price, this is quantity. Where did you see that kind of demand curve? I hope you remember you saw it when you studied perfect competition. That the demand curve for the firm was perfectly elastic or horizontal. And that when the demand curve was flat, it was also the marginal revenue curve. If you're not sure about that, go back and look at the YouTube videos or the PowerPoints on perfect competition. There's about 6 of them. You need to understand that very well. Again, we're going to throw numbers into this, not just graphs. And then, the other case is when the demand curve is not perfectly elastic, when it has some slope to it. I hope you recall that the marginal revenue curve fell inside of that demand curve. And because we're using straight line curves, which makes life a little easier, the marginal revenue curve comes out 1/2 as far as the demand curve. Or said a little differently, it's got twice the slope. It's twice as steep. And again, these are all on YouTube's and PowerPoint videos on my Angel materials and on YouTube. What I need you to also remember here is that when the marginal revenue curve passes through the horizontal quantity axis, that at this point the marginal revenue is 0. Down here, marginal revenue is negative. Up here, it's positive. So if you're looking at an output level here, it's got a negative marginal revenue. And this 0 marginal revenue corresponds to the midpoint of the demand curve where you have unitary elasticity. And down here, demand is inelastic, which means when you change the price, your total revenue moves in the same direction. You raise price, total revenue, you make more money. Total revenue goes up. Up in the elastic range of the demand curve, which is where you're going to operate, that when you change the price, your total revenue goes in the opposite direction. You need to know this intimately before you go wading into some of the things we're going to do in managerial economics, okay? So go back and look these things over on the PowerPoints, on the YouTubes, on an old textbook, whatever, okay? And I'll have all this available as background material for managerial. It's the same stuff that I use when I teach microeconomics. All right? I need you to take care of that stuff. I need you to be well versed in what we're going to do because we're going to be adding to this. And if you're trying to learn this the first time because you haven't remembered it for many years, you're really climbing an uphill slope. Okay? This is an online course that, generally speaking, I have some question and answer sessions throughout the term. Generally every other week in the evening for an hour, 2 hours, something like that. I would encourage you to come to class if you can. And I know some of you can't. So you're going to have to rely on the YouTube videos, etc., to see what's going on. There's a discussion forum for the course on the computer under Angel. Post your questions there. Any kind of issues, questions you run across. I'm going to give you plenty of homework to work on. If something's not clear, post your questions. Sometimes a classmate will answer them. Sometimes I will. But get those questions answered. Correspond with your classmates. You can make contact with everybody. Everybody in Angel, you can write them on email right there in the Angel system. And you can correspond back and forth. You can create study groups. Okay? Above all, you've got to be organized and disciplined for these online classes. All right. Let me know if you have problems.